Aldehyde and ketones are extremely important functional groups for both NEET and JEE. Most of the questions revolve around aldehyde and ketones because they are right in between alcohols and carboxylic acid. So they come as standalone questions and also between A gives you B, B gives you C, C gives you D. When you look at aldehyde and ketones, they are actually derivative of alkanes. You get them by replacing 2 hydrogen in an alkane by 1 double bonded O. So basically you can show an aldehyde as RCHO, a ketone as RC double bond O, R prime. So this tells you a couple of things. There is only one R group in aldehyde, whereas 2 R groups which could be same or different in a ketone. An aldehyde functional group is a terminal functional group. When I say an aldehyde functional group is a terminal functional group, meaning this end is terminal, that does not mean CHO is always the terminal side of a given compound. For example, there could be a long compound in which somewhere there could be CHO. Now both of these have a particular property, they have a C double bond O group. This is called a carbonyl group, and carbonyl group processing compounds are called carbonyl compounds. So just aldehyde and ketones are referred to as carbonyl compounds. When it comes to an aldehyde, the common name is derived from the corresponding common name of its acid derivative. The aldehyde can be converted into an acid. So whatever the common name of the acid is, you can get that from the examples that we will see over and over. From that you can get the common name of the aldehyde. For example, if we have HCHO, now what we do is we drop the IC acid from the common name of the acid and put aldehyde, formic. I am going to be dropping my IC acid and write it as formaldehyde, formaldehyde. Similarly, we can do CH3CHO, acetaldehyde. Then we can so on and so forth, propionic acid, all those. Now we will do certain examples that you are supposed to know. So this is simple. Based on the same convention, you should have butanoic acid, butanaldehyde. But when there is a CH3 group attached, this is a derivative of butyric acid, so we call it butyraldehyde, and you need to remember this particular compound. And when it comes to common name, what we do is we can number them based on where the methyl group is present here. The numbering goes 1, 2, 3 in IUPAC, whereas in common name the numbering goes as alpha, beta, gamma. So here I have in beta position a methyl group, so this will be beta methyl butyraldehyde. Similarly, let's say for example we have a chlorine here, that would make it, maybe we can write it down. So this would be alpha chloro 1, 2, 3, 4 butanoic acid, butanaldehyde. So as I said, you got to be very careful. These are going to be alpha, beta, gamma. And just a point to know, the term omega is actually not calculating which position. Omega, it's not shown here. Omega is basically the last possible substitution position. Okay, we will deal with that in examples. At least for now, know that alpha, beta and gamma. When it comes to your IUPAC naming, it's actually much simpler. What we are going to do is, we have seen alcohols before, we ended with OL. Similarly, these are derivative of alkanes. So again, common name, they are treated as derivative of the acids, you get the corresponding name, whereas in IUPAC they are treated as derivative of the corresponding alkane. So in an alkane you have a A and E, you change it into AL. So this would be only one carbon, so it's a derivative of methane. We drop the E and write it as AL. So had it been an alcohol, you would convert the A and E into ANOL. Okay, OL. So that will be methanol here, methanol. So this would be a derivative of ethane, ethanol. So these are pretty simple. When it goes here, IUPAC doesn't care about the alpha beta positions. It goes by carbon 1, carbon 2. So the carbon 1 is a carbon that is attached to CHO. CHO is not taken as carbon 1 because I cannot substitute anything in this carbon. So this is the carbon 1, this is the carbon 2. So this will become 2-methyl, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have to get the longest chain including the CHO group. So this would be 2-methyl butanol. This would be 2-chloro-butanol. Few other aldehydes that you are expected to remember when the aldehyde group is present in a compound that has a cycle. For example, we can take the cyclohexane. The way common name is used is we can go to IUPAC first and then come back to common name, because the common names are based on IUPAC name itself. Now what we do here is we can take this as a cyclohexane as a side chain. So this will be cyclohexane, just like a methane, it is cyclohexane. The CHO group is given a particular name, carbaldehyde. So the name of this compound will be cyclohexane carbaldehyde. The same goes for common name, because common names are ones that are commonly used, meaning commonly available products. These are not commonly available, so they didn't get their own name. So we can go through IUPAC, but where they will differ is, if we take the same example, let's put a methyl group somewhere here. So let's go to IUPAC. So according to IUPAC, the carbon attached to CHO is carbon 1. So this is carbon 1, this is carbon 2. So at carbon 2 I have 2-methyl cyclohexane carbaldehyde. Here what we do is, in common name we don't want the numbering as 1, 2, we want the numbering as alpha, beta. So this will be beta methyl cyclohexane carbaldehyde. So this is how you name a common name. We can go one more. We can take a benzene ring. We are going to name it exactly this way. We can name it as benzene carbaldehyde. There is another name for this that is also accepted in IUPAC, is benzaldehyde, because it has been used so commonly that some of the times the common names are accepted in IUPAC as well. We can name it as benzaldehyde. Now here is a list of the common names that you are expected to know, and also IUPAC for the aldehydes. Try not to memorize them, try to see over and over. As a part of a problem, you will be able to get it. When it comes to ketones, ketones are much simple in terms of common name. The last lecture we saw ethers, so if you are able to do ether, ketones for the most part is pretty much the same. So ethers we used to say alkyl alkyl ether. Similarly ketones we say alkyl alkyl ketone. It's much simpler. For example, we can take it as CH3, C double bond O, CH3. Now we can say it as dimethyl ketone, but there is also one more common name, obviously you guys would know already, this acetone. So acetone is a commonly accepted name. We can also have, let's say MECO. I'm just abbreviating so you get used to it. So this will be methyl on one side, propyl on one side. So methyl propyl ketone. Similarly, we can have carbon C double bond O. This is methyl, this is isopropyl. This we have seen so many times. So methyl isopropyl ketone. These are extremely simple. When it goes to IUPAC, in IUPAC what we want to do is you want to get the longest chain possible. So the longest chain is including the carbonyl group, longest chain, and you want to give the lowest numbering for the C double bond O. Here I don't have to worry because either way I go, the numbering is the same. So 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3. So I have a derivative of propane, I drop the E and then I do ONE, ketone. And here I have the position 2. I don't have to say propan 2-one, the reason being, or 2-propanone, the reason being there is no other position you can have the C double bond O. So hence it is simple. Whereas when I go here, you can put it as propyl as this way, methyl as this way. So 1, 2. So this is the shortest numbering, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pent. So it's pentanone and I have 2 pentanone. Here the longest chain is going to be this. So it is going to be a derivative of butane. So it's a butanone, 1, 2. So 2 butanone. And at position 3 I have a methyl group. So 3 methyl, 2 butanone. Now these are extremely simple for ketones. If suppose you have the same, we can say for example this one here, dimethyl ketone or acetone. If it is 2 propyl groups, dipropyl ketone. So this is too simple for you. IUPAC is where you have got to be careful because you may have a compound where you might have both the aldehyde and ketone. For example, this. I have both the aldehyde and ketone, the aldehyde takes preference. So this is my carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4, carbon 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that makes it pent. And this is the important one, pentanal. And at position 4 I have the ketone group. So it is referred to as, when the ketone is treated as a secondary substituent, it doesn't end with the ONE, it gets the name OXO, 4-oxo pentanal. Now we can go for one more where okay, this is an example we just make up. So first thing we want to do in an IUPAC is you want to see the principal functional group because that is going to determine how the ending is going to be and also how the numbering is going to be. Without figuring out what is the principal functional group, we cannot figure out which is the longest chain. So this is my principal functional group, COOH. So it is going to be a derivative of acid. So this is going to be carbon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here we cannot say a common name because we don't know this compound, but when it comes to IUPAC, it is going to be the acid. So the acid group has to be part of it, and it is, you have to take the longest chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is going to be hexanoic acid. Now that I have hexanoic acid, I have to name my aldehyde and ketone. Ketone is pretty simple. At position number 2, so this is the longest chain numbering, but position numbering is, this is 1. So don't get confused. This is number 1 in terms of longest chain, but longest chain is not the position. For example, if you take a common name, alpha, beta, gamma is given for the position after the functional group. Similarly here, this is carbon 1, this is carbon 2. So 1, 2. So at 2 I have ketone. I have 2-oxo. 3, 4. At 4 I have aldehyde group. So when an aldehyde is part of a side chain, you name it formyl. So for lack of space I am writing it like this. So this would be 4-formyl, 2-oxo, hexanoic acid. Okay. So now I will give you an assignment so that you can practice all this. Luckily, nobody is going to be asking you to write and come up with a name. You just have to choose the best among the 4 given options. If it is JEE mains, maybe the last 5 questions might have it, then it is a tough call. But otherwise, if it's a multiple choice, you just have to know, and just getting the root alone correct might eliminate many of the choices. Next, we will look into the isomerisms possible by aldehydes and ketones. For the most part, they show the similar type of isomerism. Both of them show chain isomers, they show functional isomers, they are functional isomers of each other actually, and they can show tautomers, and ketones alone have a unique property compared to aldehyde. They have a property to show metamers just like your ether. Let's go one by one. First, we will look into chain isomers. As the name says, the chain itself is different. For example, we can take this versus this, this, this. So all of these have the same molecular formula, but they are different in terms of the parent chain. Here the parent chain is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 carbon is present, whereas here 1, 2, 3, 4, one of them is a methyl group. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, the methyl group is different, and 1, 2, 3, 4, they are different. So these are chain isomers. These are too simple. If you want to figure out how these are chain isomers, try to give them IUPAC naming. You would actually see that the naming is different based on the longest chain. So the root itself is going to be different. This is going to be pent, this and this are bute, this is going to be 1, 2, 3, so this is going to be prop. So this is going to be how the chain isomers are going to play out. Similarly, when you take a ketones, we take this can be a chain isomer with this. This will also change in here, common name and IUPAC name as well. Now here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be hexanone 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So the 3 is the shortest numbering. So it's going to be hexan 3-one. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, doesn't matter whichever carbon I go, 5. So this is going to be pent, pentan, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter. So I want to go with this numbering, pentan, 3-one. So now why did I choose not this numbering but this numbering is because I can say this carbon, if I go this way, this is going to be 4-methyl, if I go this way, this is going to be 2-methyl, and I want to give the lowest numbering, 2-methyl pentan 3-one. So how do you identify chain isomers? Extremely simple. The root name is going to be different. Pent, bute, prop. Here hex, pent. So the root name is different. So that is how you know your chain isomers. The longest chain itself is going to be different. We can go into the next one, functional isomers. Here you want to remember aldehydes and ketones are functional isomers of each other, which are very simple, but they are also functional isomers with ene and all. Aldehyde and ketones have one common functional group, the carbonyl group. So there is 1 degree of unsaturation is present. Because 1 degree of unsaturation is present, that unsaturation can be somewhere here, C double bond C and the OH group, just like we saw in alcohol. So this can be enol. Now the simplest one we can take is, we can take this one, aldehyde, ketone and enol. So these three are completely different. So these three are functional isomers. There is also one more possible. What if we write it this way? There is 4 of them. This is an alcohol. There is 1 degree of unsaturation. So hence this is also a functional isomer because the functional group itself is different. Not all that common for you guys. So only way they can ask you the question is they can ask you this and ask you what is the type of isomerism between them. So this is going to be an aldehyde group. This is going to be an alcohol group. So they are going to be different functional group, but the molecular formula will be the same because it has 1 degree of unsaturation, 1 degree of unsaturation. If you are not familiar with the degree of unsaturation, I have done a previous lecture separately for that. So make sure you go see there. We don't want to keep it over here. Okay, these are the ways functional isomerism works out in your aldehyde and ketones. The next isomerism we are going to see is tautomerism in aldehyde and ketones. Tautomerism has been done in a separate lecture. We will see a brief recap of how tautomerism works out. Let's say we have an aldehyde. So tautomerism basically is the shift of alpha hydrogen between an aldehyde and the corresponding enol. So how this has worked out is, it's better if you write it this way, C double bond O, a hydrogen here. This bond has come here, this bond has gone there. I have done tautomerism separately, so I don't want to go in detail, but just looking at these two, I can see that they are the same. They look like functional isomers, but the difference between the functional isomers of an enol and aldehyde that we just saw a couple of minutes back compared to this one is, this tautomerism is only possible when the enol is actually right next to each other, the same carbon as the double bond and the OH. But if the double bond is somewhere else in the molecule and OH is somewhere else, they cannot shift to the corresponding aldehyde. So that becomes a functional isomer of an aldehyde. These two are not functional isomers, these are tautomers when they can shift the hydrogen that is alpha in position to the C double bond O. Similarly, a ketone, if we take this ketone, an unsymmetrical ketone. Symmetrical ketone means it has the same group on both sides of the carbonyl. Here it is unsymmetrical. I can have a tautomer, the C double bond O can get this hydrogen or this hydrogen. So we can have C double bond OH, C, 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 OH, double bond C. So both of these are tautomer of this particular compound. Because it has 2 adjacent alpha positions, it can take from either of them. Obviously, this will be more stable because of the corresponding hyperconjugation effect. But anyways, where have we seen this type of tautomerism that it can go both ways is in your biomolecules. You will see that fructose can actually tautomerize to give you 2 different molecules. Fructose, mannose, glucose tautomerization will actually involve this type of 2 different positions where the double bond can be present. So this is how tautomerism works out. The last isomerism we are going to see is metamerism. Metamerism, you have to be careful. People confuse it with positional isomerism. Let's take a ketone. So these two. So when you look at it, if you name the IUPAC naming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So both of them are pentane derivative. So pentan 2-one, 2-pentanone is old IUPAC naming, pentan 2-one is the new IUPAC naming. Similarly, 2-propanol, propan 2-ol. So that 2-one along with the functional group is the new IUPAC naming and the more correct way. Here I will have pentan 3-one. So now it looks like just in position where the C double bond group present is different in IUPAC naming, correct? So 2-one, 3-one. So it looks like a positional isomer of the functional group. But when it comes to ketones and ether, these are called metamers. The common name will actually tell you the difference. If I were to write the common name of this will be methyl propyl, this will be diethyl. So they are completely different. Common name will be methyl propyl ketone. I am just abbreviating it here, not the correct abbreviation, I am just doing it here. It is going to be diethyl ketone. Right. So these are metamers. Now when it comes to metamers, IUPAC naming will not tell you easily, but you have to be very sure. As soon as you see a ketone, trigger yourself. Okay, can it be a metamer whenever I think it is a positional isomer? And one more detail that I want you to tell you is, when it comes to a common name of a ketone, you will actually miss one carbon. For example, methyl and propyl, if you add them, 1 plus 3 is 4. The compound will have 5. Hence the IUPAC is better. It will tell you exactly how much it is. Take for example, acetic acid, 2 carbons. Acetone has 3 carbons. So in a common name, there is always one less because you don't count the C double bond O in a common name. Whereas in IUPAC, every carbon counts and the carbon number is given based on the lowest numbering for the C double bond O.